Welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. We're glad to have you. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. Glad you found us. If you're a return listener, thank you, thank you. You've helped drive us into the top 10% of all podcasts on the internet. So that's exciting for us. I'll remind people that we are on 23 different podcast distribution points. So wherever you get your podcast, you'll find us. Or you can always go to rexandrewshow.com and listen to it there and check out our sponsors and our very fun other topics and blogs. Well, today, one other house cleaning item I almost forgot. Don't forget to subscribe. So if you're subscribing on social media or any of the platforms, please subscribe, please comment, be part of the conversation. All right. Well, I have a fun guest for us today. I've been exciting, been a little bit of time getting her scheduled, but we finally got her. So I have Amy McCae, who is an expert on basically helping people with mindfulness and helping leaders work and being mindful. And so I think it's going to be a fun conversation today. So welcome, Amy. Glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Rex. I'm glad we could finally connect. I appreciate what you do and the opportunity. I hope we can be of help to one another.
You bet. You bet. Okay, so Amy, I was reading through your bio and stuff. You've had quite a history of what happened. Tell us, life is like crossing a stream. You have a set of rocks that you hop from one rock to the next rock and the next rock, and eventually you're across the stream, right? So back us up a few rocks and tell us, how'd you get here? How did you get to doing what you do today?
Well, at the beginning, I basically spent my entire life wanting to be a doctor. Like I knew from the time I was 3 years old, I was going to be a doctor. And my mom ended up dying of cancer when I was 20. And watching her go through what she did, I just lost all interest in it. I was really not impressed. It was devastating and crushing. And so I just said, got a little bit lost, went off track and went and did other things. But then I ended up spending the big chunk of my 20s chronically ill. I had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, interstitial cystitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and I was really, really miserable. I went to the bathroom like 30 or 40 times a day. 9 urologists couldn't help. So then finally I had a day where she's 18 now. She just turned 18, my oldest. She was a baby and I was too sick to take care of her. So I had to crawl to the phone because I was in that much pain and get some help. So my sister came and took her and I just said, I'm going to figure this out. So I just started searching all kinds of things. And I called my other sister. She was working in a gym. I said, get me a personal trainer. I went to this natural health, whatever. I just started doing it. I started working out. I changed my diet completely. I started meditating, doing all these things. And I felt so much better in really a short period of time that I kind of rediscovered that passion and I wanted to share it. So I was doing all this research and learning all these things that I decided I should start getting certificates. I should get some more formal training. So my first certificate was in personal training, personal fitness. And that was roughly 15 years ago. And I've gotten like 15 more since then. So I average almost a new one every year. I do continuing credits to keep them, but everything from fitness to meditation, to some other alternative stuff, to life coaching, mindfulness meditation stuff, some intuitive training, all of those things, and kind of encompass them all into my practice where I get to help people do some healing on different levels, holistic healing. My focus is really on mindfulness. Mindfulness is really what I'm passionate about at the moment because of its capacity to really just bring happiness to the moment instead of complicating things. Like we live in this crazy world and it's connection to emotional intelligence, of course, but everything can be mindful, like fitness. If you have mindfulness kind of acts, I guess, as an umbrella to all these things that I do, because you want someone to develop self-awareness, but that self-awareness leads to making better fitness choices and tuning into your body and what does it want, and making better eating habits, or maybe sitting down to eat instead of standing to eat, or maybe eating more fruit and vegetables. I mean, there's all these things that are just kind of more self-awareness, mindfulness-based, conscious decisions that lead towards, happier and healthier lives. I mean, that's what we all want. I mean, at the end of the day, most people just want to be happy and healthy, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack. Let's dial back a little bit here, Amy. In dealing with the loss of your mother to cancer, because that probably looked like a big contributor for you to start looking at health. How long of a journey was that? Did your mom have cancer for a while? How involved were you with that process?
She had, probably, I think the first time she was diagnosed, I was 17. So it was pretty quick. Like, and she didn't fully recover from that. She ended up being diagnosed again with something else. And that was very quick then. She was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in like June and died in October.
Wow. So it's fairly
So
quick.
that was very, very quick.
Was that a big wake up call for you? Or were you close to your mom? How did that impact you emotionally?
Yeah, I think I was in college, so I ended up dropping out of school. Like it just crushed me. Like everything I wanted was no longer how I wanted it, and I didn't always make those the greatest choices those next couple years. So I just kind of got completely off track. And I'm the oldest of four, so I had been engaged to somebody. I'd been engaged to somebody, and that relationship ended during that time. And I went and helped my dad to take care of my brother and stuff because I'm the oldest of four, and I have a sister that's 2 years younger than me, a brother that is 9 years younger than me, and a sister that's 8 years younger than me. So they were very young. They're like 11 and 12
Wow.
when she died. So
Okay. Well, it's still life changing. Nothing,
yeah.
nonetheless, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah, life changing for everybody.
For
I don't think
everybody.
it ever. I mean, it's been how many years now, and there's still, yeah. I mean, it still altered, my becoming a mother without a mother. My children don't really have much grandparent. Um, those sorts of things. So that it goes on forever and ever, and just changed my mind about the medical profession for sure.
Okay, great. Then you started getting into, you said you became a fitness trainer, a personal trainer first, right?
Yeah, when I that was the first certificate I got in my early 30s, so probably 15 years ago.
15 years ago. Now, did you seek doing that? Because you said you were sick with several different diagnoses. Did you do that for your own personal, or was it personal and professional? Were you trying to make a living out of it?
Both, and yeah, I was working out a lot, so I just thought that was the best thing best certificate. And you could get a national accreditation, like when you're I was looking to put together some sort of holistically based thing. So I needed something holistically based business. So I needed something physical. So I knew that personal training was physical, and I knew that I would need some other things in there to make it. I went and did some EFT, learned EFT, and there was something else in there. So I was trying to put together a holistic um, a business that offered like more than one thing, like the whole person type of care. And personal training was the first thing. It was, and again, nationally accredited because that seemed vital to make sure you had. And I do the continuing credits to keep that, but I don't do any personal. I don't really enjoy it. I love to work out, but I do not enjoy personal training sessions. I love so many other aspects of my job, but the personal training, no, I don't. I'll help people set some goals and I know personal trainers and yeah, but I'm not doing it.
So, curiously, what do you not like about the personal training?
Um, People aren't that committed. The hours don't work when you're a mom because a lot of people,
Yep.
you go at the gym or early in the morning and late at night, and you're going to have to work those separate. And gyms kind of set it up. The money to be made there, the gyms are making money. The people aren't making that much money. So the system's kind of twisted on your sale, how many sales and this percentage. And I'm like, I don't even know if your check was right because it was so complicated. And then to try to do it on your own, I stuck to a lot of in-house training and just women, largely going to their homes. Then you're driving and then they're canceling at the last minute and things like that. So, and I just didn't, it bored me after a while. So
Yeah.
yeah, people would talk to you about other stuff. And I thought, well, I should just be a life coach. What the heck am I doing this personal training stuff? I'll just coach because everyone's telling me their life story anyway. So I might as well just do that. So yeah.
That's what evolved to then, huh?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So then where did you pick up the mindfulness? I have some direct experience with mindfulness. I am constantly a self-help and personal improvement type person. And probably one of the best classes I ever took was stress reduction through mindfulness. And it was the first experience I had with mindfulness. And looking back at all the classes, courses, books, tapes, all the stuff I've done, I still think two things, reading Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and then also taking that mindfulness class were some of the most important things I've done, just because so many people don't spend much time in that space.
It's true. I think that it's overlooked. I'm very confident that the soft skills that we've overlooked are coming to light this year more than ever. After 2020, everybody's going, what the heck, right? Like, we got to make some changes to how we live. Like, we had no choice but make changes because they sent they sent my kids home, and like all of these shut down. All my events were shut down. I mean, everybody had to decide how are we going to live now. So self-care has, of course, become important, and actually like self-awareness and mindfulness and self-awareness basically kind of have the same definition. And self-awareness is this key aspect of emotional intelligence. And that's probably why you got so much out of it, is you developed a different level of self-awareness. It also usually helps cultivate compassion. Like, I'm a kinder person since I do mindfulness, but the journey there, some of my next training after getting a sort of personal trainer was Silva Life System, which was mind training. Now, it wasn't mindfulness based training. It was originally called mind training, Silva mind training, clear back in the 70s. But I think they got ticked off about that stuff. People didn't like that you're selling it. That personally. So they had to change it, and they called it the Life System. And I went and did that. And then that year that they had this extra session, which never got taught in Omaha before. So I was able, like 2 weeks later, and go back and do this other stuff. But it was mind training, and it was like teaching you how to do self-hypnosis and do all these amazing things with your mind that you had no idea. I just did some intuitive work for somebody mentally just before this. So it taught me that, but it taught me the power of the mind, and it blended a little bit of neuroscience, a little bit of spirituality, and a little bit of quantum physics.
Okay.
We simplified it. I mean, it wasn't complicated. And then you sat there listening to this theta sound or the alpha sound until they weaned your mind off of it. It was mind training. So that was my first introduction to really into meditation.
Okay.
And you take it and make it your own. And as far as mindfulness went, I had been so goal-oriented and type A and driven that mindfulness kind of offered this space of peace and oneness and not having to do something. So I had been trained mentally to do stuff with my mind, but I hadn't trained my mind to not do stuff. And I was really curious about that. And it became, in Omaha, you couldn't really say, we were doing mindfulness-based stuff, sort of, but we weren't calling that. And it became this buzzword. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go get training for this because I want to know what this is like. So I went to Mindfulness California, and I did. They offer, their program is really more for educators or people working with children. Well, I have children, and I volunteer in schools. Not really now because nobody will let you in, but I was volunteering. If a school calls me, I'll go and teach classes from this program. It's the most well-researched children's program I've ever seen, but it's more made for that. So I did their fundamentals, I did their teacher training so that I got the curriculum. And then I went looking to officially become a certified teacher, like I think the next year. It was the next year after that. So then I got a teacher certification, and I'm in a mastermind to get another mindfulness meditation teacher certification, because I think it does me good. Like, I do more what I'm supposed to do if I just keep in those classes myself. I hire a coach every year. I go to training. You can't expect people. I'm always kind of frustrated. I have people that call me and say, I want to be just like you. I want to have a business like yours. And I'll say, well, have you hired a coach? No. Well, how are you going to be a coach if you've never even hired a coach? So go hire a coach. And I'm always like, you don't have to hire me. I'll tell you what kind of coach do you want. I'll send you to all these people. You find the one that works for you. But you have to go hire a coach. So that's what I say. And take some personal development, because that's going to make you better on all of it.
Right. So for our audience that's listening in, wherever they are, whatever day, how do you define mindfulness, and walk us through what mindfulness is? Because there's a lot of people who probably heard the term, but they don't know what it is.
No, and everybody, when I walk into an organization, I'll say something about mindfulness, and what's the image that comes to mind? And the image is always like this monk on a mountain, chanting Om. So no, we're going to streamline it and make it completely, it did, the term and practice probably did originate in some ancient, Eastern philosophies and religions, but it doesn't have to look like that at all. So John Kabat-Zinn he created MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Mm-hmm.
He put mindfulness on the map clear back in the late 70s. So he's the one that kind of brought it here. His definition is something to the effect of mindfulness is this awareness that arises from being in the present moment, paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So what does that mean? It means you pay attention to something deliberately, like maybe it sounds. So you just pause and you just hear the sounds and you don't pass judgment on it and you just do it for a moment. It's that simple. That's an example. Or you just pause. Mindful breathing is a really awesome practice to do. So you just take a moment, pay attention to your breathing.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's not to be like, oh, I'm not breathing correctly, or I should be doing this. And everybody has thoughts. That's not the point. The point is not to get rid of them. The point's more like make friends with them, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you start somebody off and teach them how to be mindful, are you having them, close their eyes and focus on their breathing? I mean, what have you found when you teach somebody this or you practice yourself to sort of get somebody to that place where they are just paying attention for no apparent reason at all?
Yeah, my first recommendation is to take the 2-minute challenge, because it's not stressful, because you can turn these into a formal meditation and make it for a longer time. You're going to learn a lot about yourself when you sit quietly for a moment. So
Right.
I say take the 2-minute challenge. Just stop and pause. And I put my hand on my chest a lot of times when I teach people or ask them to, or on your belly, somewhere where you can feel a little bit more centered. And just, you can close your eyes, but trauma sensitive mindfulness is kind of popular right now because everyone's so anxious. So you don't have to even close your eyes. You just kind of allow your gaze to go down a little bit and find a focal point. And then whatever arises. And if you hear sounds or have distractions by your mind or whatever it is, you're just bring it back to your breath. So you choose that your breath is kind of like your focal point. Eventually, what happens is usually there's some space and it's quiet and whatever, but it's not, if you have an end goal in your meditation practice, it's going to stress you out and that defeats the purpose. So it's like another word for mindfulness sometimes is awareness, sometimes attention training, because that's what you're doing. We look at it as like, the analogy I like is say it's like a bicycle. So when you learn to ride a bicycle, you have your attention and awareness, like you're trying to stay on that bicycle, right? But what happens? Sometimes you fall to the left and you bring it back. Sometimes you might go to the right and you bring it back. And the same thing's with your mind. Thoughts go over here, you just bring it back. I'd have some sounds over here, or the body's doing something over here, just bring it back. And you do it gently without passing judgment. And that's really that's being mindful. And now there's specific practices that are considered mindfulness that are the formal practices, but just do something,
Okay. Now you mentioned a phrase in there that I picked up on. You're talking about trauma based. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, because so many people, if there's addiction issues or pain sensitive, someone suffering with pain, someone with a history of being abused, a lot of times people like that, or people with those experiences will have anxiety closing their eyes or feel anxious tuning into their body. Like in mindfulness, we do something called a body scan, which is just kind of scanning your different parts of your body. People will feel anxious. So you have to just do it gently instead of, not everybody does it. And then if you don't have to close your eyes. I feel more focused when my eyes are closed, but you don't have to. Sometimes children don't want to close their eyes either, and it's fine.
When I took the class, it was a 6-week class and once a week type thing. The first thing that they had us, and I'm not an expert at business anything, that's why I have you on here today. They had us closing our eyes and learning to listen to ourselves breathing and feeling that. And I think a lot of that was having us sort of tune in, sort of dial in. And then it was in an office building. And when you closed your eyes and you started listening, all of a sudden you heard all kinds of things you'd never heard before. I mean,
Yeah.
Never heard small planes going by, but there were. I never heard, the traffic that wasn't that forward, the white noise from the traffic. Never really heard the air conditioner that was running. So I did find some value in that. But again, when you teach somebody to start on a path of learning how to use mindfulness as a stress reduction or a centering, I mean, what are the steps you have them go through?
So the main practices are things such as mindful breathing, a body scan, loving kindness. Loving kindness is saying something, a phrase, kind of like a mantra, like to get relaxed, kind of like you're going to do meditation. And you might say to yourself, may I be at ease, may be well,
Mm-hmm.
may be loved. You repeat some phrase like that, and then you can send that to others. And sometimes people feel a warm feeling, or they deliberately do that. There's a whole bunch of different ways in which you can do it. So that is a loving kindness. So mindful breathing, you can do other things like gratitude, being quiet and mindful listening. That open awareness is another type of meditation, but we don't teach that at first because it's so overstimulating and overwhelming to people. So we always try to find some focal aspect in the formal stuff. And then also, although I teach these specific practices, and you can do mindful eating, you do mindful walking. Those are big right now too, because I mean, the reality is you're always breathing, you always eat, you know, everyone's going to eat, everyone's going to walk, everyone's going to walk,
Yeah.
or you move in some capacity. So to be able to find ways to bring more presence to that's good. But I also, coaching is a lot about asking the right questions so the person finds the answer on their own. And so is mindfulness. So I try to get people, I have 10,000 different worksheets, which ask lots of questions that are mindfulness-based questions that try to teach you to like tune in and find out what's really going on. So there's a level of self-awareness that's developed. And we do that because think about it, if you tune into your body, you'll find out what hurts and what to do about it. So there's a process there of, and mindful emotions. It's called affect labeling in psychology, but we call it mindful emotion. So it's learning to name what you're feeling. That's a huge piece right now. Because we have neuroscience on it too, is why it rewires your brain. So.
All right, so let's go back because you always give me more to unpack than I always catch here. Let's go back to body scans because I don't think everybody understands what those are. Sure. Can you help us understand what a body scan is then?
Yep, it'd be the same process of getting into a comfortable position, and you close your eyes or just find a focal point, and then you're just going to bring your awareness to different parts of your body. You may start at the top of your head, and you're just going to sense, like your eyes, your nose. And the first time I felt my tongue was the strangest, craziest feeling. I was like, holy crap, it's all tingly. So you're just scanning down your body, and that's really it. You can notice the awareness of the space in front of you or above or side, below or whatever. So I do that as well. You can do focus on your lower half of your body and see what happens, or focus on your upper half of your body or your whole body. We did in the mastermind one time, we did, my teacher had us focus, because so many people aren't grounded and they're anxious. He had us focus on our shoulders down so that people are always in their heads, right? Like you're stuck, everybody gets stuck in their head. So about getting more centered and doing that. So that's kind of what it looks like. You can send loving kindness to parts of your body. I've been in corporations where people were like, oh my gosh, my arm felt like it was on fire when we did that. So it allows you to tune into what your body, kind of like when you said you were quiet and heard all these sounds all of a sudden, same thing with your body. You'll be like, oh my gosh, my right ankle hurts, or why am I seeing this color? The idea is to have the experience, and again, not judge it, but ask questions about it. So in mindfulness, we want to cultivate curiosity and compassion.
Okay, so when we're doing a body scan, is it important what's the proper setting? Do you want to be sitting? Do you want to be standing? Give me a little more detail there.
I think it's always, you can do it any way you like. I think for beginning, beginners should begin by sitting up, because if you get too relaxed, you fall asleep.
Right.
We're not mindful, we're sleeping.
Right.
There's awareness, there's alertness.
Right.
So, and the position really is your feet on the floor, your hands in your lap, and your spine erect. So, but it's not really like straight erect, and it's not slouched, because you want to be able to feel like your chest or abdomen going. And I always say, raise your shoulders up to your ears and then drop them down. And then you'll know that you're in the position. If you can't tell because people are sitting up here with their shoulders up to your ears, they're tense. There's that little, it's not that high, but there's usually this like 1/4 inch space. So
Right.
if you just raise them up and drop them down, I think phrases like be like a tree. You can put a pillow underneath your bum a little bit, because it will help you to just sit naturally upright but you don't have to be sitting. People are like, I thought you were going to make us wear funny hats and yoga pants and sit on meditation pillows. I'm like, no, we don't need any of that.
Right.
But if you're more experienced and want to be a little bit more relaxed, at least after you've tried it, you can lay down. I actually sense and again, you can make it applicable into your daily life. I sense my hands and feet when I get in my car, just my hands and feet, because I feel anxious driving a car. So I sense my hands and feet to not feel anxious when I'm driving a car. You can sit at your desk and be like, before you send a text or email, and sense your hands and your feet or your core, feel your core. So you can take bits and pieces of it, yeah, and make it applicable to where you're at. Or your feet when you're walking. That is another example.
Well, those are good, because when I took the class, what they had us do, very much what you're talking about, is to just become, because I think everybody in our class was able to close their eyes or comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Closed their eyes and went through body scans, and the instructor pretty much just sort of walked us through, tell me, feel your head, what are you feeling? And what was amazing to me, what I found was interesting as somebody who's a complete layman in it, is I realized how much pain I was in. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That, hey, I'm a father of 5. I'm running around, got business and all these other things cooking around, and go to the gym and stuff. And then I'd realize, oh, my elbow's a little tweaked, or, oh, I didn't realize my back was this way, or, oh, my knee's a little bit sore today. So I started to become very self-aware through the mindfulness of just paying attention to what my body was telling me. And that tended to me to help apply some better attention to those spots.
But then you know what to do, right? Like it allows a higher level of consciousness. Now you have insight into something you didn't, and now you can make a better decision.
Okay. And I, after doing the body scans, and I would go to just sitting quietly, eyes closed, and listening purposely, and then just letting go of everything, just being aware in that moment. And it was amazing how much actual background noise we have in our lives. It's crazy. And you can pick the quietest place that you think is quiet, but it's not near as quiet, because we've learned to tune that out. So
yeah,
right.
I love that you notice that, and that you remember that, because we get into habits, like we go take classes or have these experiences, and then we don't use it or remember it. Doesn't make enough of an impression on us for it to be a lifelong habit.
Right.
It's awesome that you had enough to share that with us.
So I think this is something a lot of people, because I don't think the pandemic stuff is over. We won't get into the politics of either side of that, but it is what it is. But tell me a little bit about the mindfulness and walking. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from that.
Yeah, and again, I know some people have been virtually trapped in their homes, so you can bring a little bit of mindfulness to walking, even in your home. I keep encouraging people, because I've gotten a bad habit of sometimes eating at my desk when I work from home. It's a bad plan. So get up from your desk to have your lunch, so it's more mindful. But when you're walking, then even from your desk to your kitchen table, the first practice that we start in mindful walking is to sense your feet, like the feeling of your feet touching the ground. So just do that, and you'll just be like, wow, I didn't know I had all those feelings, or dang, I need some new shoes, or these socks are cold, or whatever it is. There'll be an awareness of what's really going on, go on. But it's awesome to walk. Like, I love mindful walking in nature or just outside, because then you can be like, I'm going to see, how many different colors do I see?
Right.
So you just walk along. It's not mindful walking to be listening to your earbuds or whatever, whatever, I don't have anything fancy, but all those kids, my kids included, have all the fancy stuff to listen to music with. That's
all our earphones playing all kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like that. It's more like, and you could choose hearing instead. And you just do that for 10 minutes, even just go to do 10 minutes of what do I see? What do I smell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
you can do it in your too, but
yeah, I learned to do it, to go for walks. I have picked up the habit of doing walking meetings, and that has nothing to do with mindfulness. That's just to get some exercise while I'm on the phone, because I'm going to be on the phone anyway, whether I'm sitting in a chair or if I'm having a discussion while I'm on the phone. So that's nice. But what I would do is about 2 or 3 times a day, stop and just take a 15-minute mindfulness walk. And you know, go look at insects and go observe the clouds and go look at different things. And to be in that moment changed all the stress levels of the things I was thinking about, because I believe in our modern world, because we're so hyper connected to our devices, to social media, to updates, to push notifications, to email, etc., that we don't ever really unplug very well unless we take a mindful step to do it.
Right. An intentional step.
An intentional step. And so I really, especially for right now, so many more people are working from home. So many more people are spending time on Zoom calls like we are here today, that we're probably not doing some of the things that we used to do in an office, you know, going to the water cooler, going to the refrigerator, stepping outside for a few minutes. For those who smoke, going on a smoking break. We're not doing those types of things anymore. And so we're in our home offices or our living room or our basement or wherever we are doing our home thing. And it's just easy to continuously be in that ball of stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and home and work have kind of blended together for a lot of people, and now they've got homeschool in there.
Yeah.
Too. So to really make those moments better, or not, I don't even know if better's the right word, to just be more in tune with those, because if the moment does happen to suck, like at least you know you can have the power to change it then instead of being stuck in it.
That's right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people commingle the words meditation and mindfulness. Help us understand the difference between those.
Sure. So mindfulness, like we said, is basically paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judging it. Meditation is mental practices that have the capacity to create higher levels of consciousness. Okay. Those are the things. Mindfulness meditation then is those specific practices like we talked about for an extended period of time. It's that simple. So there's mainly only, although you could Google types of meditation, there's really only a couple different types. There's focused attention and there's open awareness. Mm-hmm. For the most part. And then there's this space that people talk about if you practice for an extended period of time or you practice regularly. Sometimes you have an open space of like everything nothingness, but we don't want to have an end goal. You just want to practice and experience.
Okay, so unpack for our listeners here today, what's the difference between the two types of meditation?
So focused would be basically what it says, like you have focused attention on something. So like a mantra is a very good example. You're thinking, breathe in, breathe out, something like that. That's something that is focused. Open awareness type is where you just notice whatever's going on around you. And it's just moment to moment to moment to moment. And that's harder to do. It's always best to start with focus. If you're an experienced meditator and you feel comfortable with that, then you can start with open awareness. What happens if you haven't practiced focused for a while? Open awareness, you don't end up meditating, you end up lost in your thoughts.
Okay.
Or something else, noises. Normally people have thoughts about work or things like what they have to do next or what they regret.
Right. So when you're using mindfulness, what are the benefits? Are you talking about stress, diet? I mean, where does this apply? How does it impact by practicing mindfulness?
Sure. Well, my big thing is the emotional intelligence piece, because it allows you, mindfulness teaches you, there's a quote, Viktor Frankl said it, and basically, I'm going to summarize it because I don't have the actual quote here, but he says basically that there's this pause. So when you practice the pause, which is what we do in mindfulness, then have the choice to either, you'll make a conscious decision instead of emotionally reacting when you've learned to practice being more mindful, which that impacts, are you going to eat the chocolate cake? Because you might have paused and thought about it. So that impacts your well-being, right?
Right.
And maybe you eat the cake. It's not right or wrong, but you have a moment to choose what that looks like. A conscious.
Well, remember, when it comes to cake, there's no judgment when you're mindful, right?
Right? Sometimes you just eat the cake.
That's right. You just eat the cake and don't even think about it.
And just let it go. Let it go. Sometimes the cake is the better decision.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the interruption.
No, you're good. It's true. Another piece is relationships. I know a lot of people that like to avoid people. It's not realistic, right? We're stuck dealing with people regardless of how we really feel about them. So think about when you've been mad at somebody or blame somebody or all these things. If you can tune into what's going on with you, 80% of the time what you were mad about has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with it has something to do with the past, not about the current situation.
Right.
But if you can pause, think about it. How many I'm sorry's are you going to avoid if you pause before you speak to somebody, especially before you send text messages? Text messages and emails get people in trouble all the time.
Right.
So even professionally. So if we stopped, we can make a conscious decision. So then you have relationships health and not think about success. You tune in to like your core values. That's another thing we teach in mindfulness, is like your core values, like what really does matter and why does it matter? How do you do that? You start making decisions based off those things, being authentic and making decisions like that, success is so much higher. So those are how it applies in life. We have, in neuroscience, there's 9 aspects of well-being that have been proven to be developed through mindfulness-based practices. Now, I'm not going to list those 9 aspects, but they lead towards things like creativity, intuition, morale, gratitude's thought to be the 10th. That hadn't been, years ago, it hadn't been proven, especially yet. But they lead to visionary type thinking because you're using a different part of your brain. So that's the big thing. You're using prefrontal cortex instead of, everybody's acting out of fear, especially lately, right? And that's your amygdala back in the back part of your head, a little tiny stress part of your brain. But those are like the benefits. So like it just creates conscious decisions. You have the capacity to rewire your brain. Like people should take back over their lives, especially after last year.
Yeah.
Your day, and it starts with you and tuning in your day-to-day life.
Well, I know the one thing that I observed when I was heavily into it and I need to reconnect with it is my stress levels would go way down because I kind of take those pauses, those timeouts, be mindful. And I'd realize, this isn't as important as it used to be. And then the other mindfulness that I would do the same thing is before I go into the gym and work out, and especially if it was a lifting day, and just to reconnect with my body, do a body scan and just sort of reconnect. And then I would know how or how much or what to do or what not to do during my workouts. So those are fun. But for me, and again, everybody's going to use mindfulness in different ways. The stress reduction was so helpful.
Well, part of the reason there's stress reduction is because something as simple as mindful breathing, actually you have the capacity to rewire your nervous system. So we know for a fact that paying attention to your breath on purpose deactivates a sympathetic nervous system, which is the one that's on alert, and you can't have both of them active at the same time. So then the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, which is the rest and digest or whatever. So yeah, it's going to reduce your stress just by paying attention to your breathing. It's science, it's proven. No monk training needed, no voodoo, nothing. It's straight physiology.
So is mindfulness what you're primarily teaching today then?
Yeah, mindfulness and the emotional intelligence aspect. I'm co-authoring an article right now with, I never heard of it. He's an industrial engineer. I mean, an industrial hygienist, which I didn't have any idea what that was, but these are amazing people.
Right.
Great stuff. He works for the government, and we connected on LinkedIn, and we're writing an article together on the connection between mindfulness and emotional intelligence and how it impacts jobs, like how it impacts your job, like your safety and the health and decisions making, your communication and relationship skills. So it's good stuff.
So currently, and now, do you have a coaching practice? Tell me a little bit about what you're doing today.
Mindfulness, mainly the 2 main things I do are coaching, and it's just mindfulness based coaching. So I teach the mindfulness meditation, the practices that we talked about. I teach those, and then we teach, like I said, I have tons of different worksheets. So we teach the self-awareness for conscious, and then the typical life coaching that has, how do we get from point A to point B with resistance and the blocks, and how do we be held accountable, and all the values and all of those things. So it's combined together in coaching. And then I finally have some teaching. Well, I had some online training right before Christmas, a whole bunch of it, but then there was a kind of a break. So I also do corporate training, which is mindfulness based.
Okay. Give out your website so people know where to get to you.
It's Amy McCae, AMYMCCAE.com, and mindfulnessleadercoach.com.
Fantastic. So do you have any projects on the horizon that you're working on?
I have, I'm teaching in a college on Wednesday. No, Thursday. I'm co-authoring that article. We'll finish that on Wednesday. I am speaking at a retreat next month. I am supposed to be in another organization with a woman who does mindfulness stuff. So just those sorts of things. I think I'm going to do an event this Saturday. There hasn't been, it's been kind of difficult because nobody lets you in. You know, a year ago, everything got canceled. So we've had to start over and relook at how we do networking and how we teach and train people.
Right. So are you have any books or those on the horizon? I do know you've got your podcast. Let everybody know the name of your podcast.
Oh, I don't have a podcast.
Oh, you haven't gotten there yet then, huh?
No, I was going to, yeah. I was supposed to be doing it with this woman and we didn't. Yeah, a colleague of mine. We postponed it because we thought we should learn from experts like you how to do that. Get more.
Wow, expert's an interesting word. All right. Anyway, well, it's been a great today to talk to you and to learn more about mindfulness. I know I'll have you on in the future to talk in further depth on that. And we'll let everybody get on to their next thing today. So until next time, for the Rex Andrew Show, we'd like to thank Amy McCae for coming on today and to give us some insight and education on mindfulness and some personal coaching. And until next time, thanks and make it a great day.